Welcome back to You Asked For It. Today we're going to be talking about dog-on-dog conflict within the same household. Welcome to You Asked For It. I figured I'd come outside for a little change of scenery. Hopefully we can get this in before the skies open up. For those of you here for the first time, You Asked For It is basically an Ask Me segment where my social media friends and followers will ask me questions about their particular situation or ask me to post some kind of content about a situation or a topic that interests them. So today we have a question from Chelsea from Facebook. Two dogs that were raised together. One gets a little nasty and has attacked the other, seemingly unprovoked. How can we prevent again? Happened twice. And how to react afterwards? The second dog doesn't fight back. She continues, also, they're 4 years old. The non-combative was adopted first at 12 weeks, the second adopted months later at 5 months old. They got along as puppies and still do most days, but the one goes after the other, and the one doesn't fight back, and the one that does fight doesn't listen when he's in beast mode. So dog-on-dog conflict within the same home is really difficult, especially when people are asking me for advice, and I don't actually know the dogs, I don't know the people, I don't know the environment. It does pose a challenge. But I can give you a couple of rules of thumb that could possibly help. First and foremost, I mentioned the variables that I don't know. I also don't know the history of either dog. I don't know the level of training that each dog has, kind of gone through, or what level of expertise, if you will, or how the dogs listen to their owners. And again, obedience, training, socialization, all that stuff. Those are variables I just don't know. All I could do right now is offer some suggestions to try and help solidify some consistency within the household. Couple of things I like to look at. Again, I don't know the answer to this, but this is just for Chelsea or anyone else who may be watching. What kind of resources are left around for the dog or dogs? In other words, are there resources left around that could be causing conflict? Bones, toys, treats, places where they sleep. Do they guard certain people or other things in the house? What kind of feeding schedule are they on? Do the people in this particular scenario, do they free feed? Do they leave food out all day? Are the dogs on any kind of schedule, whether it's a crating schedule, a walking schedule? What kind of daily stimulation and training do they get? These are all things that we need to address. So first things first is pick up all the toys, okay? No toys, no bones, no treats, nothing. Don't leave anything lying around. Don't give them any opportunities where conflict could arise. And for the time being, you should have them on some kind of restricted access schedule, meaning they should be crated when they're unsupervised, at least initially, so we can minimize the amount of opportunities there are where conflict could arise. Obviously, feeding them in their crates or separate areas is a good idea. Food can be one of the number one resources in a family unit, in a household that dogs could experience conflict over. So we want to make sure that they both can eat safely, calmly, and separately. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially right now as we work through this process. Absolutely do not feed them right next to each other or from the same bowl. Step number one, gotta walk them. Walk them every day, multiple times a day if possible. Now, granted, I know in this scenario the dogs get along most of the time, right? That's all well and good. We need to walk. We need to get them traveling together, doing something together as a family unit. And obviously with two dogs that have, although it's only 2 times, there is a history of conflict from one dog to the other, it's best to have one dog per handler. So 2 handlers with 2 dogs, right? One dog with one handler, one dog with the other handler, right? Do something as a family unit. If you don't have another handler, as long as the dogs are okay on a walk, you could certainly walk them together. But if there's ever been conflict on a walk, obviously get someone to help you out. After every walk, provided we have 2 handlers, we come back in the house, whether it's your living room or the kitchen, somewhere safe, keep the dogs on a leash, and do quick little obedience commands. Each handler working each of their dogs, right? Just quick 20, 30 seconds, sit down, come, sit down, come. Both of you have your dogs on a leash, have them working simultaneously. that will give them a little bit of distraction, but focused on the handler, right? Each individual dog has to focus on each individual handler. And again, this is something done in a controlled manner, right? Where they're on leash, it's a controlled setting, one handler per dog. As far as rules in the household, I'll drop a link in the comments below. I have a couple of PDF files. They're free files on my website. Again, I'll throw the link below. One is on leadership tips. The other one is on decision making. And it basically spells out how you can control your environment, how you can get your dogs working on a daily basis without having training be all that impactful to your schedule, right? Where training pretty much becomes part of your life. We don't have to set time aside to train the dogs. It's just part of what we do. The most important aspect of the leadership tips that I offered you down below is consistency. The more consistent we are in our behavior, the more consistent our dogs will be in their behavior. Does that mean there's not going to be conflict? No, of course not. We got to put the work in, right? We have to create harmony. We create harmony through practice. Practice with repetition will create reliable behavior from the dogs. And most importantly, the practice of all this stuff will create reliable habits in you, the owner or handler. It's really difficult to address this in a short YouTube video because we could really dive in deep, especially if I knew all the variables. But for now, we'll just touch on some things that will certainly offer some progress. The one thing that Chelsea pointed out was that the one dog doesn't fight back. Now, this leads me to believe that there might not be all-out fighting going on as opposed to maybe some conflict and sparring. And the difference to me, sparring is a lot of commotion, a lot of growling, a lot of posturing, even some mouth contact on the body, but no major damage to one of the dogs. Now, I don't know if there was any damage to the, let's call it the submissive dog here, the one that wouldn't fight back. I didn't get any indication that the dog was hospitalized at all, so it sounds to me like there was a lot of sparring going on. Which is good. Sparring is, I don't want to say sparring is good. Let me rephrase that, right? Sparring is better than fighting because, right, obviously fighting, now our fight scenario is intensified and brought to a whole different level. So if they're just sparring and one dog is opting to avoid, that's good. That will help Chelsea to diffuse the situation a little better. And I mentioned the leadership tips before. Let's just review a couple of them right now, just so you have it right in front of you in black and white on your screen. Here are 5 basic leadership tips that I'm talking about that might help Chelsea or someone else in this situation. And if you're one of those where leadership is an offensive word to you, please feel free to substitute it with guardianship. It's the same crap. I don't know why some trainers are offended by the word leadership and they use guardianship. It's all the same to me. So whatever makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Number 1, leaders initiate. No matter what the interaction, it's best to assume that leaders initiate. For instance, if the dog comes to you and nudges your hand or swats at you for you to pet the dog just initiated that. Right? So are you succumbing to these initiations, or as I call them, demands by the dog? While they may be cute, and in most homes it's not an issue, here we have a home that has dog-on-dog conflict, and it has the possibility to escalate. So yes, we do need to be a little more strict in this scenario. If your dog is one of those pushy, demanding types, and in this particular home it could be the case, especially if one dog seems to be more assertive and the other one very passive, the correct response is to ignore your dog under these scenarios. We should initiate all interactions. Another common example I use is if a dog brings us a toy to initiate play. We do not, quote unquote, submit to the dog's demands. Now, granted, if we want to play with the dog, that's fine. But if the dog tries to initiate play with us, first and foremost, we're going to ignore. Right? And then after 10 seconds, the dog goes on to something else. Then we pick the toy up, and then we introduce the toy to the dog if we want to play. Now, in this particular scenario with Chelsea, obviously, we already have to put some rules in place where we can't have any toys or anything floating around in the house. So this particular rule might not apply to Chelsea, but you get the idea. Number 2 is resource control. Resource control, like I mentioned, and I pointed out the other video as well that I did on that. Nothing in life is for free. I'm not going to beat this dead horse too much, but basically, food, treats, affection, playtime, going for walks, toys, people, places on where they sleep or eat or frequent. These are all potential resources that could be associated with conflict. So we got to make sure that we own these resources, and we control and own them by making our dogs work for them. It doesn't mean that our dogs can't have them. They just have to perform an obedience or some other task to earn the privilege. That's all. It's very simple. Number 3, all day long you're doing 2 things. Either you're rewarding or correcting behaviors. And the fact is that most dog owners all day long are rewarding, even if they're rewarding unwanted behaviors. I also did a video on how positive reinforcement is ruining our dogs. Now, obviously, that was just a little goofy title to describe how we positively reinforce unwanted behaviors. So just be aware of that. Be cognizant of any unwanted behaviors or states of mind that you want to avoid or eradicate. Like in my house, play is not allowed inside. Inside is calm. Always. I do not allow play inside. Outside is for play. Now, I don't know Chelsea's situation, but if these dogs are playing or engaging in some kind of excited or stimulated state of mind or behavior, even if it's play, that has a recipe for escalation. So right away, I would cut that off. I would change that rule. No play in the house. Number 4, having multiple training sessions with your dogs every day. And this holds true for a single dog home, or in this case, a multi-dog home where there's conflict. And 3 training sessions should be minimum. Now, don't worry, don't stress. How am I going to find time? Don't worry, you'll find time. It's very simple. Each session is going to be a couple minutes long, just real quick hits throughout the day, morning, noon, night, or morning after you get home from work, and then one before bedtime. This little multiple training session protocol, in addition to resource control, makes training part of your life. So you don't need to set time aside. I don't care how busy anyone is, we all have 60 seconds to spare for our dogs. And if you don't have 60 seconds to spare for your dogs, what the hell are you having a dog for? Number 5, walk your dog. Not just around the block either. You gotta walk. Dogs have an innate desire to travel. Okay, travel with your dog, in this case with your dogs. And it doesn't have to be for miles on end. You could do a slow, deliberate quarter-mile walk, and that will burn just as much energy as a 3-mile hike, because you're controlling the pace, you're stopping, you're doing sits and downs all along the walk. You're making your dogs, kind of work and think about what you want from them on the walk. So that mental stimulation does balance out, and you won't need as long of a physical walk. So resource control is very important, and I did another quick video on making our dogs earn their keep. I'll throw a little card up there. I'll also drop the link down below so you have that. What people have to understand about resources is it's not just food, right? Resources can be anything of value to the dogs. Food, treats, affection, playtime, places on the furniture, a dog bed, areas of the house, a food bowl, a water bowl, people, right? Individual people. All these things could be resources that we need to control. We need to make sure that the dogs are earning their resources by working for them. Either our dogs are working for us or we're working for our dogs. It happens often where dogs are raised together, and then when they reach maturity, some conflict arises. Ooh, these darn little no-see-ums. I don't know why they call them no-see-ums. I see them all over the place. Anyway, I'll be swatting a little bit. Boom, boom. So dogs that are raised together, they reach maturity, and conflict starts to occur. It happens. It's pretty common. And in this scenario, the likelihood that the one dog just started attacking the other dog out of nowhere, it's really unlikely. Really unlikely. Dogs rarely do things out of nowhere. Dogs rarely turn on other dogs or their owners, right? When they say, "Oh, my dog turned on me," usually they're these little tiny signs that happen incrementally over time, right? And then all of a sudden they materialize where the humans start to be aware of them, even though that stuff's been going on for a long time leading up to the conflict. To the human, they think, oh, it came out of nowhere. And usually that is not the case. And that's, another thing we're going to address today is to get back to basics and to get those dogs to a position of always looking to their owners for guidance. So that's it in a nutshell. I tried to cover as much as I could in as short a time as possible. But like I mentioned earlier, we can really dive deep into this subject matter. And of course, not knowing all the variables or the dogs, it makes me be a little more cautious in what information I provide to you. But anyway, let's do a quick recap. So number one, we definitely want to manage the environment, and if we have to keep the dogs separate when they're unsupervised, it's absolutely acceptable to do that. It's safer for the dogs, it minimizes the amount of conflict that could arise when they're unsupervised, and it allows you to kind of reintegrate them with the new rules that you're going to be implementing, so you can offer more cohesion among the dogs. So if you have to crate and rotate for your own comfort level for a little while, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, safety should always be your priority. Obviously the dog's safety and the human safety. And there's nothing wrong with managing the environment. And also with managing the environment was making sure that we pick up all the toys, pick up the bones, all the stuff that could potentially cause conflict among the dogs, right? We want to kind of keep a nice, clean house. You gotta get down on all fours, look at the world from the dog's point of view, under the couch, under, you know, maybe some counters, whatever the case may be. Make sure you don't leave anything, you know, that maybe the dogs could fight over. And in your case, in all likelihood, there'll be one assertive dog and then the other dog will, you know, kind of back away. But we want to minimize conflict. Get them walking, right? Walk them together. We got to stimulate them mentally, and we got to make sure that they're doing something together as a unit. Get them on multiple walks a day, if possible, together. Make sure you take a peek at my PDF files on decision making and leadership. Very important. And also implement my 5 leadership tips. And again, I'll drop the link below so you can have the full PDF file for decision making and leadership, but the 5 leadership tips I covered here, you absolutely want to start implementing them right away. And make sure that you supervise them closely when they are loose together in the house, right? We want to make sure that inside the house it's calm. That's a calm place. We don't want any escalations or spikes in, you know, energy or any kind of enthusiastic or overstimulated activity. And whenever you're in doubt, if you feel like something's off, you know, maybe there's something in the air that you just isn't feeling right with you, walk them, work them, right? Get them stimulated mentally, get them working for you, preoccupy their minds, maybe give them some alone time, you know, give them recreational chew in their cages. In fact, I have a video on recreational chews and things like that I could pop up there as well, and I'll put the link below too. You know, these are some things that we're doing to try to holistically create more balance and harmony in the environment as a whole. Well, I hope this helps, and if you're new to this channel, take a peek around. If you like what you see and you want to stay up to date on dog training, dog health, dog rescue, consider subscribing to the channel. For those of you coming back, I appreciate your support. I hope I am over-delivering. And again, if there's any content or anything you want me to cover or review on the channel, drop a comment below or hit me up on social media, and I'll see you guys next time on You Asked For It.